Hi everybody, my name is Hartej Sawhney. I'm the co-founder of Hosho. We've been a team of 30 or so people based in Las Vegas focusing on being on the intersection of cybersecurity and blockchain. We see ourselves as a cybersecurity company that covers the blockchain industry, and a lot of major cybersecurity problems, in my opinion, just happen to matter a lot if you're passionate about Bitcoin, which a lot of us happen to be. And I want to start by also thanking Mo Levine and the keynotes. We have an awesome team. Thank you for organizing this in the midst of crypto winter, and it's so good to have so many awesome people here in the midst of crypto winter. So this is the amount of dollars that was raised in 2018 via the fundraising mechanism known as an ICO. And it's a lot of money. It's $21 billion was raised through a large number of ICOs. More money was raised in just January of last year than the entire previous year, 2017. And what's bizarre in the cybersecurity sense is that 10% of about all of that money was lost or stolen. And that's a lot of money if the people in this room care about this industry progressing and surviving. And we need to care a lot more about security, both our in-house practices, and we have to be mindful of what kind of governance practices are prevalent in the space. We had some really big hacks that I think you can see that you've heard of, things like Parity, CoinDash. CoinDash was a really obvious example where there was an ICO. They made the website in WordPress, which anyone who's in tech knows that WordPress is really shitty and full of security vulnerabilities, and you're a dumbass if you launch an ICO website built in WordPress. Like, just pure dumbass. And basically they launched a private pre-sale where the Ethereum address was changed by a hacker. Just go to a different hacker and to go to a different address, and within 24 hours about $7.2 million at that time of Ethereum was sent to the wrong Ethereum address. A lot of basic things can be done in the world when you're building a website, such as getting a penetration test by a third-party professional to avoid these types of things. And all of these ICOs, most of them were ERC20 contracts written on the Ethereum and Solidity. Solidity is relatively a new language, which is the language that Ethereum is written on, if you don't know. And the biggest error that we find when auditing these smart contracts, which is what my company Hosho does, we've audited more smart contracts than anyone else in the world. I think we did about 170 or so smart contracts for ICOs to date. And we audit the code and we make sure, is the code doing what it's supposed to be doing? When you issue 21 million tokens in the white paper, does the actual code create 21 million tokens? And when it doesn't, that's usually a logic error. And we're finding that when auditing these smart contracts, that's the #1 type of error that we're finding, and that's how a lot of money is often being stolen or lost, because basic logic errors, that when this smart contract goes live, the founders of the company won't even receive tokens. I've seen that happen at least a dozen times, where we've read the code, read the white paper, and we're like, if this goes live, the basic math is wrong, you're not issuing enough tokens, the founders will never receive tokens. And the worst is when you find critical vulnerabilities, like infinite token generation. We've literally come across infinite token generation. Or recently, even the Ethereum core devs are releasing stuff with critical vulnerabilities, which I can get more into. And then we have the exchanges. We've had $2.7 million on average stolen from cryptocurrency exchanges per day. And this is something where literally all we need to do is talk to every single exchange and say, every time code changes on your website and your platform, are you getting a penetration test? Ideally not just in-house. I recommend you having an in-house security team that's able to do a pen test, but please get regular penetration testing done. And I feel like I've been repeating these words throughout 2018, giving keynotes in different conferences, and now there's a birth of hundreds of new exchanges, and they all need to be told the exact same thing. And now the stakes are even higher in the security token space. It's a lot more legitimate and less pump, less dump. And it's important that exchanges communicate with each other when tokens are being stolen and money is being stolen. Like right now, using tools from chain analysis, you can track stolen Bitcoins. And you can track that they go from one exchange to the next exchange, and eventually they usually end up on Binance where there's no KYC or AML for up to 3 BTC. And then money gets laundered. How many people in this room have been affected recently by a more mainstream hack by like maybe Marriott or Equifax or British Airways? Anybody? That's a lot. So like, I find this very important for this room, for this conference, to realize that more than I think a dozen people raised their hands that they've been personally affected by these hacks that at the mainstream level, Marriott, British Airways, they also could have avoided these hacks by regularly getting penetration testing done, by leveraging tools that I consider a cybersecurity shower. So tools such as tools to monitor your AWS, your Google Cloud, your Azure, tools to find data leaks on the internet. Recently we found a data leak from a bank in India where on GitHub there was public lists of the usernames and passwords of clients of this bank in India. And as these types of hacks happen from British Airways, that's a personal note that's not supposed to be on the slide, but that's okay. And basically, if mainstream hacks from British Airways and Marriott are happening, and we all want this industry to succeed, it's ever more important that we don't let those types of hacks start to happen and continue to happen in this industry. And we all need to shape up, and we need to do a better job of educating the masses. And when it comes to companies in this space, I'm always asking the founders, who's in charge of security in-house? And people are still pointing their finger to their CTO, and that's another major problem. No matter the size of your company, whether you're a Fortune 500 publicly traded company or you're a startup with 3 people, someone at your company needs to be in charge of thinking about your in-house security practices. And one of the most common ways cryptocurrency exchanges are often being hacked, actually, is through phishing attacks. And phishing attacks, it simply means someone opened up the wrong email, they opened up the wrong PDF and didn't follow what they should have had as a good corporate policy to not open up emails from unknown accounts and to just open up the PDF. I mean, the most common, easy story, I won't go into the full story, but it was a dog walking story that I have been infamously telling where a woman was into dog competitions. Her dog was a competitive dog, and essentially the hacker monitored her social feeds, monitored her Twitter, figured out that this woman is obsessed with dog walking competitions, made a fake competition for dog walking, emailed her a application to have her dog sign up to compete at a local dog competition, and she signed up, she opened up the PDF. Within 24 hours, the hacker was able to basically gain access to all of her keystrokes and watch her log in with her passwords to all of the databases at this cryptocurrency exchange. And that exchange then lost, I think it was $12 to $15 million in Bitcoin within 24 to 48 hours. And I think that's super important to also note that that exchange, when they got hacked, they picked up the phone and they called an incident response team. That incident response team responded with, please open up your email and check the 12 PDF attachments of legal paperwork that you're going to have to go through before we can engage and before we can figure out what happened and how you got hacked. And I think that's so important to realize that not only did this company not have a CISO, they did not hire a third-party consultant to come in and do a risk assessment and to be available for instant response, but that now when millions of dollars have been stolen, they're on the phone with an instant response team like TLDR, for example, and they have to sit on at least 1 week to 2 weeks of legal paperwork. So I highly encourage people to pick up the phone and engage with someone. It might even only cost you 5, maybe 10 grand a month. Maybe a 3-month engagement with someone who has an OPSEC mind, who can come in the office and figure out that there are some obvious problems in this office. The router is not secure. No one's using 2-factor authentication. I could hack into the CEO really easily. Like these types of things, you know, Think about them before you lose millions of dollars. Don't burn your hand on the stove like a kid does, and then the kid burns his hand and then goes, okay, now I'm not going to burn my hand. I mean, I look forward to more people in our industry burning their hand, because at least when kids burn their hands, they don't go back to the stove. Secure your domain, the SSL certificates. If you're buying a new domain, look into the past history of the domain. What was the history of it? Who owned it in the past? Were they spammers? Were they, did they get flagged by Google for doing some criminal actions? And that's about all I can really touch on. It's value security. If you're writing a smart contract, get it audited. If you're making a website, you're making a wallet, you're running an exchange, get penetration tested regularly. Every time code changes, you are open up to security vulnerabilities. If someone of the likes of Marriott and British Airways and Equifax is getting hacked, in our space, we're dealing with people's money. Most of the time, we're really dealing with money. And when a smart contract gets penetrated, we're talking about people's money being stolen. So let's value security. Let's think about what we're doing for our personal security. And also, I'll end this on, not only is cybersecurity important online, we should all also think about our physical security. And I commend the conference organizers for the relatively good security coming in here. I'm happy to be checked walking in here because it's important. Physical security is important. Think about your loved ones. Think about where they are. Think about how you would feel if they got kidnapped for 1 Bitcoin when they were visiting Thailand and a bunch of 12-year-olds with knives said, give me 1 Bitcoin, and they tie you up to a chair. That's possible. So what would you do in this scenario? What do you do in the scenario of your phone being stolen? Did you just lose all your crypto? If so, you're probably a dumbass and you didn't think about things. So let me know if you have any questions. Follow me on Twitter. My name is Hartej, Hartej, and I'm pretty easy to find. I'm the one guy with a turban. Find me.